Good morning, gang. Happy Saturday morning. So, off to the weekend, and here we go. So, it's all part of the big plan. Move you out of your house, make you lose your job, and the only one that can save you is dear old government, right? We've all heard this story, and so many people just blow it off like, that's not affecting me. My job's safe, my house is safe, whatever, right? Not necessarily. Okay. If you take a look at what's come out in the last couple of days about our survivability in a Marxist society, you may be shocked. Now, you remember me telling you here, a week or so, we're going to eventually get to a point where the country is full of haves and have-nots. That we're going to be to a point where whatever you got, that's it. Okay? If you ain't got it, you ain't getting it. And that sure seems to be the path we're on. Report came out yesterday that the housing market, for example, 60,000 accepted offers in August, the buyer backed out. You think, okay, sometimes buyers back out, houses fail inspections or whatever, right? Okay, that'll happen. Most of them are backing out because from the time they made the offer till the time they sat to the closing table, the interest rate had changed and raised their payments nearly $200 a month. And people are like, or the bank is like, you can't afford it at this interest rate. You know, I've been telling you about me and my buddy finding a house, helping him try to find a house. Finally did. Okay, good news. He found a house, made an offer on it yesterday, and it was accepted. So that was good. But real estate market, let's take a look at this, okay? How do most people buy a house? House, it's a big purchase. Hell, most people buy a car, is financing, okay? Well, what have we seen happen here in, the last year? The real estate market, at least the commercial side real estate market, has crashed, okay? Well, if there's nobody looking for commercial real estate, then that means it sits vacant. Nobody needs to buy it. And if nobody needs to buy it, that means the banks don't need people to process that paperwork, those loans, whatever it would be. So what do? They lay people off. Kind of like Wells Fargo has done in the last 2 years. I mean, give you this. Wells Fargo has laid off 40,000 people in the last 2 years. Okay? And we don't need to go into all the other people that have lost jobs because of nobody wanting office space. The cleaning crews that come through, whatever, the security on an office building. Don't need those people, so those people lose jobs. We all heard, work at home, it's terrific. No disagreement there. Working at home is terrific. But why are companies embracing that? Well, the two biggest expenses that any company has are the real estate in which they do business and their employees. Okay? Well, they figured out how to cut the real estate. Work at home. You pay for the real estate, and we'll give you a paycheck. And then they're cutting employees. This is where the economy's going, and this is what people aren't paying attention to. So it's a snowball effect. As there's less people working in banks, as mortgage rates go up, as there's less people working anywhere, that means less services are available to you. If somebody's working at home, chances are that means you're not going to go visit them at their office, right? I mean, personally, I worked at home for 7 years before I retired. And was I ever going to have somebody meet me at my office? No, I'm not going to sit down in my living room with you. That's not going to work. Okay, most people are like that. Some people may be different, but most, this is my home. No, you're not coming in. I don't need you in my house. But so Wells Fargo has now announced they're going to lay off more people. Okay, which says snowball effect. More and more people are going to wind up out of jobs. You close down a business, any business. I'll use the example of the steel industry up in Pittsburgh. They closed down all the steel plants. What was this, 40 years ago? Starting to shut them down. And towns died. The entire town died. Why? Because most people worked at the steel plant, and then they took their paycheck and they went to the grocery store or the Kmart at that point or whatever and spent money. Well, they didn't have the job at the steel plant to make the money. They don't need the grocery store. They don't need the Kmart. All those places went out of business. Okay, so snowball effect. We hear all this talk all the time about banks and, we're going to be down. Different stories will tell you 2 banks under the Marxist ideals of the World Economic Forum, and some say 6. Okay, I want to give you this. In the last 6 months, and maybe you've seen this, bank branch closures. Okay, in other words, laying off people and shutting down that commercial real estate. PNC Bank, one of the top 6, 201 closed. U.S. Bank, one of the top 6, 185. Wells Fargo, one of the top 6, 160. JP Morgan, same thing, 54. Bank of America, 49. Okay. These are the banks that are supposed to survive in that top 6 list. And between them, they've got rid of what? Almost 700 bank branches across the country? Banks having problems? Could be. Give you this. This past week, okay, $987.32 billion was taken out of banks by you and me. Now, could that be, gee, I'm a coin shop dealer and I got debanked? Gee, am I a business and my business just got shut down? Whatever it is. But $987 billion in assets had to be sold by banks to cover withdrawals. Okay, and again, you guys know this. You go deposit your paycheck, $1,000 or whatever it is, into your bank account. The bank doesn't have $1,000 in cash sitting back in the safe. Okay, the bank takes your $1,000 and they go buy, most of the time, something like treasury bonds. Well, the problem is, when they bought all those treasury bonds, say 2 years ago, that were at 2% or 1% or whatever, that's what they're stuck getting in interest. So they're losing money. And we've heard this story over and over and over again, that banks are carrying assets on the books that are at a loss. That's because interest rates have gone up, so treasury prices have gone down. Something you bought for $1,000 2 years ago, paid 2%. Well, now interest rates are at 6%, and so I'll give you $90 for that 2%. So that's what the banks are carrying. So now when people come into the bank and say, I want to withdraw my $1,000, I want to go buy a house, a car, groceries, the electric bill, whatever it would be, because I got to tap into my savings to do that at this point. The bank has to sell those assets at a loss. And if they're not going back and buying something else when the next paycheck hits, that's a problem. So that's what you saw this past week. Almost $1 trillion in bank assets liquefied because they had to pay out the depositors. That can't happen forever. That's exactly what happened with Silicon Valley Bank or anything like that. They got caught with their pants down. They couldn't meet their withdrawals from their depositors, so they had to sell assets to the point where it bankrupted them. Okay. So start putting all this together when it comes to your money, your job. If your job is any way related to the banking industry, get your eyes wide open. Because even if it's a hardware store and you go, well, we don't have much to do with the bank. You have a line of credit. Okay. Yeah, you got a lot to do with the bank. Your company is buying that merchandise that's on the shelf on a line of credit, and then they got to pay the bank back. If the bank's gone, so's your line of credit, so's the merchandise on the shelf, so's the profit for the hardware store. No profit for the hardware store, no job for you, Mike. Okay. But pay attention to this. Watch the real estate market, watch the banking industry, because, like I said at the beginning, if you don't have it, soon there's going to be a time where you can't get it. Like I said, look at the housing industry. I mean, I can speak to this one firsthand from all the looking around and trying to do whatever we've done for the last couple of months. It's a bitch. And when you do finally find something, hopefully there's not 8 other people trying to outbid you for it. So pay attention, watch your money, pay attention to your bank, pay attention to the real estate market, because it's getting tighter and tighter and tighter out there. People can't afford houses, and they got to go somewhere. And this is all the plan. Oh, you don't have a house? Come live in our 15-minute city. Oh, you don't have a job? Don't worry about it. We'll give you your UBI. That's the plan. Pinball out.